The NFL playoffs kick off with a matchup in the Lone Star State as the Texans, winners of the AFC South, take on the Chargers, who have made the playoffs in Jim Harbaugh's first year at the helm. AQ, what can we expect from this one?
You can expect Jim Harbaugh to implement his DNA all over this game. They are going to hammer the run game. They are getting back to what they do. Obviously, Justin Herbert is playing fantastic football, but he doesn't have very many weapons at the receiver position. Although Quentin Johnston had a game. Finally had a game where he caught a lot of balls for a lot of yards, what is what they've been looking for. So maybe that accelerates them into the postseason and gets them rolling. But listen, the Houston Texans, I think, are going to be one and done. I really do. I think because at the end of the day, their offensive line has let them down all year long. And when it's on the biggest stage come playoff time, they will let them down again.
Well, you're speaking of the offensive line. I'm looking at weapons on both sides of the ball. Jay, who has the advantage when it comes to the more talented team? And let's start with the offense.
Well, right now, the Chargers have the advantage because they're in hot. The last 3 games are averaging over 35 points a game. They're playing great red zone defense. They're number 1 scoring defense in the National Football League. They have JK Dobbins back, which is their bell cow on offense. Quentin Johnston has emerged last week anyway, had 13 catches, I believe. They spread the ball around. Ladd McConkey, he obviously a good player. Usually they have 8 or 9 guys that touch the ball on offense, and Justin Herbert doesn't care. He throws to the open guy accurately and on time. He is playing with a boatload of confidence, and he's athletic. So right now, the Chargers by far have the more athletic and better all-around football team, offense, defense, and special teams. The Texans have been reeling the last 3 weeks. They played 3 really good teams. I throw the last game out, but the 3 last meaningful games they had, Kansas City, Baltimore, they scored 2 points. Miami, they struggled a little bit offensively. So yeah, they're struggling. Losing Tank Dell really hurts. He's a speed guy on the outside. Now it's all up to Nico Collins to really get the job done. Joe Mixon has averaged about 2.5 yards a carry in the last 3 meaningful games. So they have to get him going somehow. They can't leave it all up on CJ Stroud's shoulders. It'll be a long day. They don't pass protect very well. So in order for the Texans to have a chance, Joe Mixon has got to play well, and CJ has got to play like he did in year 1. He's got to be a little bit more relentless, carefree, let the ball fly, but hopefully somebody can get open against this tough, stingy Charger defense. I just don't see a lot happening for the Texans based on what I've seen the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Now, when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, is there any area where the Houston Texans may have the advantage? Is it the Texans D-line? Is it D'Amico Ryans as the D coordinator? Or the Chargers are favored on both sides of the ball? They have the better offense and defense, in your opinion?
I think they are favored on both sides of the ball. I think Texas play very good third down defense. They're 6th in the National Football League in third down defense. He always has a good blitz plan. They have good pass rushers on the outside. So if they can get the Chargers a third down and long, they'll have a chance. The problem is getting them to third down because the Chargers are very good on first and second down with Herbert in the play action, and having JK Dobbins back is a hell of a deal for the Chargers. So it's going to be a tough day for the Texans. But CJ Stroud, we all know the capability he has at quarterback. And if he can let loose and play like he did in year 1, and they get back on track to some of their play actions of Dalton Schultz and maybe Nico Ryans on the little skinny bang 8s or whatever they are, they'll have a chance. But it's going to be a tall task for these guys. The way the Chargers are playing right now, the way the Texans are playing right now, everything points to the Chargers, but it's playoff football. You never know.
Is CJ going to throw to Nico Ryans or Nico Collins?
Did I say Nico Ryans?
You also told us how much you hate stats, and you just spewed off every stat in this fucking game. So.
And then you didn't make any mention of Ezekiel Elliott.
Zeke Elliott, that's a game changer.
Hey, higher or lower 2 carries for Zeke in this game?
Lower. He doesn't dress.
I'm taking the higher just because.
We got to figure out what our stats are in terms of where our pick'ems are at. But Colt, let me ask you this question real quick. Oftentimes, the playoffs is where the quarterback play shines. You have Justin Herbert, you have CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud took the league by storm last year. Who has the advantage in quarterback play?
Well, I think just like Jay mentioned, it's like the Chargers are kind of building up to this. You look at how they've played the last several weeks, and it feels like the Texans are just kind of limping their way into this game. And when you look at it from a quarterback perspective, listen, Justin Herbert is a dude. And we've talked about his lack of weapons, but Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston showed up, JK Dobbins, their offensive line. What they can do is they can lean on that offensive line and that unit. They can throw play action pass. And when it all breaks down, Justin Herbert is as good an athlete as anybody else playing the quarterback position, and he can go get yards with his feet. And when you look at the Texans, I love CJ Stroud. Listen, he is going to be a great quarterback in this league for a long time. He's shell-shocked right now. He's been hit so many times. He's not seeing it great, and it's not all his fault. Like there's a little bit of injuries play a role in this. The offensive line shuffling and not playing great all year plays a role in this. I mean, they had 2 points against the Ravens. He needs some help. And I think the only way that the Texans stay in and with CJ Stroud is if he gets Dalton Schultz going early, he gets Nico Collins down the field a few times, and Joe Mixon catches a bunch of balls in the flat and a few screens and maybe makes a guy miss. That's what they got to lean on. That's who they are right now on offense. And I just think Herbert, has the advantage going into the playoffs. Now, although they are going to Houston, that's a tough place to play. I know in the playoffs, Houston's a great crowd, but I know, Jay, you got beat there. But at the end of the day, I think I look at the quarterback matchup, and I feel like the Chargers are in a little bit better position right now.
Hey, Colt, would you rather score 0 points as a starting quarterback or 2 points as a starting quarterback?
You still score 0 no matter what.
2 points is a tough pill to swallow. The key is Joe Mixon, man. 9 for 26 against Baltimore, 12 for 23 against Miami, and 14 for 57 against Kansas City. This guy is a great running back, and they can't open up a hole big enough for him to get through there for a yard or two, more than 2 yards a carry, man. It's a tall task for them going against the Chargers who have pretty good run defense, but somehow, maybe a toss crack, get them on a perimeter. I don't know, something. They got to get Joe Mixon going to have any shot in hell.
Joe Mixon has been the constant all year long for Houston. AQ, you've screamed this from the mountaintops that he's been the MVP of that team with the offensive line playing like they have. The Chargers just got JK Dobbins back. He was out. He was injured with an MCL injury. We talked about Ezekiel Elliott probably won't come in and get too many carries. How big of a boost is it for the Los Angeles Chargers to get JK Dobbins back for this playoff run?
Yeah, it's huge. It's 100% the biggest player getting back to a team probably in the entire playoff push, because as good as the Chargers offensive line is, they couldn't run the ball without JK, which only tells you how good he is, right? There was so many plays this year where JK would turn just a simple power on 3rd and 1 for 50 and a touchdown. And he brings that element to the team. He runs tough between the tackles. He fits exactly what Harbaugh wants to do. And that is go heavy personnel, fullback, whether it's 2 tights and a fullback, 2 tights, no fullback, whatever it is, heavy personnel, hammer it between the tackles. That is what JK does. And he just leans and leans and leans on you. And 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 eventually becomes 25 and 35. And that is what he brings to that team. And in the playoffs, you need that, especially come 4-minute offense when you're trying to close out a game.
Yeah, exactly. And all these teams out there are pushing for the Lombardi. They all have a goal. They want to win the Lombardi. Our goal is to get to 20,000 subscribers here in the Clean Pocket channel. So drop a comment, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and keep following along with us because we are ascending like this player that I want to ask you about, Jay. Quentin Johnston. AQ mentioned him earlier. He went off 13 receptions, 186 yards. That's a massive boost for the Los Angeles Chargers, who let their 2 top receiver and playmakers go this year. What have you seen from him in his second season in the NFL?
Oh, by far his best game was last week, and it's important to get his confidence going into the playoffs because they're going to need him. Lad McConkey is a heck of a player, but they need another guy to alleviate some of the pressure from a rookie receiver like Lad. So that was a big game for him. He did everything. He did everything against zone coverage. He did it against man coverage. He ran daggers, ran curls, he ran hitch, he ran a quick screen, he ran a go ball, split the cover 2. So I was very impressed with his game. He's gotten better and better. He still doesn't get the separation that you would like from a number 1 receiver, but he's a big-bodied guy with strong hands. He has had his dropsies early this season, but hopefully that has stopped, and they got to settle him down because playoff time, nerves are going to be a little higher, but the confidence that he gained last week against the Raiders is huge for him moving forward.
Yeah, let's go to the other receiving core. Let's go over to the Houston Texans. Jay, you mentioned Tank Dell, but Colt, I'm going to direct this question to you. They lost Stephon Diggs as well. So they have no Stephon Diggs, no Tank Dell. It's Nico Collins. You mentioned Dalton Schultz. They have Robert Woods on the team. They have Mechie on the team. Can they rely on this passing game, or do they have to go ground and pound to find a way to win this team with Joe Mixon?
Somebody's going to have to show up, whether that's Schultz, like I mentioned, whether that's Mechie, whether that's Joe Mixon catching 4 or 5 screens and, maybe, that pass rush and getting out in space and giving Joe some room, catching a bubble. Like somebody's got to step up and find some of those yards. But they've had a hard time all year. When Diggs went out, And now that they lost Tank Dell, that's just hard to overcome. And it's hard for a young quarterback like CJ Stroud. I think they'll move the ball. But at the end of the day, I see them having to get a few turnovers to get lucky, the ball bounce their way, like all those things in this game at home to come out on top. These are some big losses for CJ Stroud and the Texans, and I just don't know if they're going to be able to overcome that.
Ooh, all right. Well, if you might be giving a little hint as to who you have. Do you guys want me to break down our record so far and where the pick'em stand at the moment?
Sure, Justin. That would be exciting for the audience.
Well, Jay has fallen back down to earth a little bit.
Last week didn't count. The guys were not playing anybody. I didn't know the Chiefs were going to sit every goddamn person on their team, for God's sake.
You picked the Chiefs, buddy.
We talked about it. Like we legitimately talked about it on the show. All right. So right now, Jay, Colt, and I are 23-12. We're all tied. AQ's a couple picks behind. He's 20-15. He tried to take some shots out there last week and try to catch up. May have backfired a little bit, but hey, it's playoff football time. We're all still in it.
In football, every game means more during the playoffs, and you can start your own personal playoffs on Underdog, where you could cash in on touchdowns, interceptions, yards, or more. All you have to do is pick higher or lower, and you could take home up to 1,000 times your money if you get your picks right. It's that simple. Millions of fans have already won billions of dollars making picks. Sign up for Underdog today using promo code POCKET, capital POCKET, and you'll get a free pick as a part of your first cash entry plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Again, that's promo code POCKET.
So let's make our picks for this week. Colt, you want to go first in this one?
This is a good matchup. And if you would have asked me to start the season who would win this game if this was the wild card round, I would have picked the Texans all day. D'Amico Ryans, that defense, CJ Stroud, the year that he had as a rookie, they've battled injuries, and I just don't trust their offensive line. And I know we've talked about that for a long time. I think that the Chargers are getting better and better every week. I think having JK Dobbins and Justin Herbert, I'm still nervous about them because I don't feel like they have a go-to guy really outside of McConkey. But I think they go to Houston and they find a way to win this game. They're sound in all three phases: offense, defense, special teams. They're ready for this game, and I think the Chargers get a win.
I agree. I mean, I know the Texans had a really tough gauntlet playing Kansas City, Baltimore, Miami with Tua when they're rolling a little bit. Lost a few in a row. CJ looks like he's lost a little bit of confidence, lost the weapons. They become one-dimensional, which is hard for a young quarterback. So I'm taking the Chargers. They're number one in scoring defense. They've averaged 34 points a game in the last 3 weeks on offense. So, averaging 35 points a game and having a number one scoring defense, you got to take the Chargers. So I'm taking the Chargers.
I think we're all sticking with the Chargers. Listen, they're just bringing too much. I love what the head coach is doing. I love the confidence he has instilled in this team. Jay just mentioned it about scoring defense. And listen, they're going to make them go one-dimensional, and that's throwing the ball. And they don't have enough weapons to match up with how good this defense is for the Chargers. And then on the other side, I think they're going to get a lead and hammer the run game, control the clock, and do what they do.
All right, so that leaves one guy left. You know what I'm doing? I'm going Houston Texans in this one. I think they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. They have a great secondary. Derek Stingley Jr., I think he's one of the best young corners in this league. You got Danielle Hunter. You got Will Anderson. Tim Settle, a Gruden disciple in the middle there playing D-tackle. I think CJ Stroud's going to have a little chip on his shoulder. Joe Mixon's going to run a little bit angry. They looked good in their first drive last week, and they pulled all the starters. So there's no reason the Texans can't go win this one at home. I'm rolling with the Texans.
Great pick.